Yay. All right. Oh my gosh, Youest You family. Hello. Welcome. I'm so grateful as always to be in your earbuds, or maybe you're watching, so I shouldn't really say that anymore. I don't know. However you're listening or tuning in, I'm really thrilled and honored to be here with you. I don't take that lightly, and at this point I feel like we're soul friends. So thank you. And I'm really excited about my guest today. He's got just an amazing story. I think you will find so much empowerment, encouragement, hope, and just passion and optimism with Matt, who feels like an old friend or old new friend. Let me tell you a little bit about Matt, and then we will get right into this conversation. Matt Drinkhahn, I love that. Yes, Drinkhahn, that is his last name, helps owners and leaders recover from perfectionism as they grow their businesses and their lives. He has had over $130 million in career sales. Holy moly. He's coached over 3,000 people in his organizations and is a loving husband and father to 3 girls. He is also host of the Eternal Optimist podcast. I was a guest there and we had so much fun. It went really deep. And that's where I was like, I really appreciate this human being in male form who could go deep and go into emotions. And it was awesome. And Matt was also a pro golfer, which I think is so cool. And if you're watching this, you might see at some point he will show his medal from his first marathon that he completed in the Charlotte Marathon. So welcome, Matt. I'm so happy to have you here. I am excited to just share your story, and your eternal optimism.
Thank you so much, Julie. It is a real pleasure to be here. And there's a couple things to add to that list. I might add, number next is I am a Julie Reisler true lifelong fan. So that's one. You got to add that to my bio. Number next, I just finished my first marathon, the Charlotte City Marathon, which I'm holding the medal. At 46 years of age and in a wheelchair 7 years ago, told I might not walk again. It was a real thrill to cross that finish line and it's begin to bawl as my 3 daughters, my loving wife, were there. That was amazing. And then you also might want to add in there that I have, and this is a real treat, so listeners, just listen to this real careful. I was giving a big public speech last week on Monday and another one on Tuesday. And I'm 46 years of age. I haven't had a pimple in 15 years. And I woke up on Monday morning with a giant zit on my nose. And I'm a large man with I have the biggest nose to every room I've ever been in. So I walk up on stage to give it, and I've got this giant shiner on my nose. I'm literally Rudolph, the red-nosed Matt deer incarnate. So I'm up there on stage with a giant red nose and a giant red pimple. And we decided there that, you know what, we're going to lean in and we're going to own this. We're not going to let this imperfection or flaw hold us back. So we're going to lean into this. So we got in that room and we crowdsourced. If this pimple is going to be here, team, let's give it the glory it deserves. Let's name it. So we had a real fun time. We went around the room and we came up with a glorious name. I keep saying it. Glory was the name. So I'm also here today with my friend Glory, who is in the last stages, hopefully, of being on my nose. But welcome, Youest You team. This is what you get when you put me and Julie in a room. So thank you, Chance. Great to see you.
So good to see you. Now, I have never had a guest in almost 400 episodes ever talk about their pimple and naming it. And so this is a first. And I'm going to just say honor to glory, glory be. Yeah. And I'm like, shoot, I'm going to start doing that. So if you're listening and you've got a pimple or something you're not maybe as thrilled about, let's get right started. You could name it. You could crowdsource that name. You could create a character around it, make it something that becomes positive, fun, optimistic. That is so you, Matt. I love it. No one I know has named their pimple. So way to go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I just want to say that my mission today, being here with you, it's several things. It's to learn from you, to learn with you, to feel your energy, which is always just a place for me to learn, because I have identified as being more cerebral than more heart-centered. And every time I'm around you, I get a little closer to my heart. So I feel that I'm here. It's helping me. So selfishly, I'm here for me to be with you. Secondly, I really want to help the listeners out there. If anyone feels that they're less than hopeful today, or there's not relief in sight, that I want to impart a feeling of hope, and you can do it, and a
Mm.
feeling that there is relief. And I want to impart on them some tried and true strategies that they may be able to use to their advantage to work through that pain, or to relieve any suffering, or to be able to take whatever major adversity it's holding them back or that they're facing right now, and just go through it confidently, and have some good strategies for it. So it's a real honor to be here. And I, I'm just going to pause at that because I'm overwhelmed with gratitude simply to be in your presence, Julie, because you've had an impact on my
Mhm.
life since the first time you were on my show. So I'll kick it back to you to take it from here. So thank you again.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Matt. I'm already like, oh my God, I've got tears welling in my eyes. I've got goosebumps. I'm like, oh, I love, I want to say, because I know you said nothing's off guard. When we started our conversation before we started recording, I was so amazed. And what is the word? I was inspired. You said, you've been working a lot on really expressing and feeling emotions, feeling your feelings.
Yes.
And I gotta say something. I was like, that is badassery, especially, I have a son, I have a daughter too. But I think for the male folk, not all, but for many, and for some women too, there can be a focus on staying in that left brain, staying in logic, and not always giving space to feel.
Yeah.
I think for many of us, actually, I don't think just for men. I think for many of us, men, women, and everyone. I love that you are really making not just a concerted effort, but you are throwing yourself into that work, between breath work, between just experiencing your emotions. And that was the first thing you said is, I'm a little like, I've been doing a lot of feeling these feelings. It's new. And so I think that's incredible. I know, as someone who pushed down feelings for many years, I didn't want to feel the things that were, not like fun feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I know I see
Yeah.
that as champion level, just like doing the marathon. I really believe experiencing your feelings. So I just want to acknowledge you, because I think that that's incredible that you've been focusing on that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And if we may go a little deeper into that, it's not exactly what I planned. And we go where the energy goes. And I feel this is
Yeah.
a really good place to go, because how many men out there, especially men of my generation, I'm born in 1977, I had the advantage of seeing parents that stayed married their entire marriage. My dad passed away 18 years ago when I was 28.
Mm.
Those first 28 years of my life, I saw them together. They were married. They never hit each other. They never had any problem with drinking or drugs. And so I was blessed to be in a married household. And my dad was military. My mom was an English school teacher. When I was born, she stayed home and started to take care of me and do everything for the home, and really managed everything at the house. And my dad worked, and he was a highly functioning workaholic. And as a military man who's a highly functioning workaholic, or up in that household with a high empathy, loving mother, oh, what came out was someone who is like me, who's incredibly achievement focused, who is very loyal, very principle centered, works his butt off. One of those people that really is married to their work, and didn't leave any space for the feelings, thoughts, and emotions of people that were close to me. My way of serving them was to be able to achieve, to provide, to inspire. And I didn't really work into the emotional intelligence of how to process emotion, because that's not what men really do. At least that was my paradigm. And in the past few years, I've really gone head first into that, and it's led to some amazing breakthroughs. One of them I just had right before we got on this call here on November 9th,
Mm.
2023. I had the very distinct privilege of meeting Gino Wickman, the author of the Traction series of books, the EOS operating system. And he walked me through an exercise that I'll share with you right now. And I haven't practiced this. He just did it. And I got to ask him a bunch of questions, and it was amazing. He invited me, and I invite you, dear listener, if you're not driving, now if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you're at home and able, then I invite you to close your eyes. And if you close your eyes and imagine that there is a line on both sides of the line, one side is the extreme, we'll call that pleasure. The other side we'll call pain. And somewhere on that scale from pleasure to pain, I want you to drop yourself right now with your eyes closed. Everything in your world that's going on right now, I want you to put yourself somewhere on that pleasure to pain scale. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to strip away the things right now that have anything to do with money. Strip away all things having to do with money. Strip away any type of addiction that we may have. Take away your addictions. Take away smoking, drinking, drugs, alcohol. Take away any type of gaming or pornography. Take away anything, lack of attention. Take away anything that's an addiction. Then I want you to take away all the books on your shelf and all the podcasts. Take away your iPhone. I want you to then take away, this may be challenging for some. Maybe it could be a breath of fresh air for others. Take away your family members. Take away your significant other, your spouse. Take away your parents. Take away your children. Take away all your physical, worldly possessions. And if there's anything left, take away that. And all I want you to do now is simply be there in that room with nothing there with you. It's just you. Now take your pen, and on that line that you drew between pleasure and pain, draw a line of where you are right now between pleasure and pain. And you can open your eyes. And if you think about where you are, where I was in that moment, just think about where you are. Where I was in a place where you were taking away all these possessions and all this stuff. And I feel I've done a lot of work in some of those areas. So I feel like I was actually okay. And I was actually okay the whole time. I was close to pleasure. And then when you took away a couple of those very specific things, you took away my family, I instantly went to a place of like intense pain. And it's different for everyone. The work on our inner world has to start somewhere. And somewhere in that exercise, when you took something away, your dial moved somewhere. And at that point, that's where the inner work might begin. And that was a simple exercise. And he did it even differently than I just did it. That was what came out of me the first time we tried it. But we got to a place where are the things that when you shed them, the pain went away, right? And where are the things that when you shed them, pain started to happen? And I started to feel emotions when things were taken away and I started to have that pain. So end of the exercise here, team. Something to consider is, where are those key inflection points, trigger points? Where are the things that cause your pleasure or pain meter to move to the left or to the right? And to men especially, how do you work through and understand what's happening when we do the exercise? And to women, or, well, to men too, but to women who support those men, who are with those men, to daughters of those men, to wives of those men, or moms of those men, or other men who are married to those men, whoever it is.
Yeah.
If you're here to support them, first we have to understand that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to process the emotions. So one of our roles might be to help them. And I was helped by Gino today and by breath work before. The point is that it is possible to get to that point. It's possible. So pause.
Beautiful.
Where are you right now, Julie? What are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I love that this just emerged, intuitively and off the cuff. I love that's my favorite way. That's how I love having these conversations. And I think this is a beautiful, powerful exercise and practice. And love this idea of really, giving yourself that line and seeing where you are. And then as you take things away, really going into noticing, I was thinking about it for me, like, what is it that when you take it away brings pleasure versus pain? And I just was thinking to myself, I remarried, been with my husband now for, gosh, almost 10 years. And I remember when we started dating, he talked about having a harder time processing emotions. We talked about this, and it was really beautiful because he's very self-aware and has this ability of just kind of, not judging, but this is what it is. And I was just thinking, gosh, he has grown, we've grown so much together, and he's really grown, what you're talking about, his ability to not just process and give himself space to feel, but also, like he may need more time. He may not always know right away. And me learning how to kind of learn his coding, his language, and giving space for that. And it's helped me actually with myself. I've spent a lot of energy and time as well. How do I feel? What's going on? How do I process that? I think for many of us who were raised with this hyper focus on achievement, on, like you said, being all about worthiness being tied to what you're doing versus the being piece. I relate to this as well, and I think it's a cool exercise and such an important topic. And we can continue here. I do want to talk about, I'm curious with your emotions and feelings. And you mentioned it with your marathon that you were in a wheelchair 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And I'm
Yes.
curious to talk about that experience, the accident, what happened. And then maybe if we have time to look at like your emotions, like processing those emotions, I would imagine that's at
Yep.
least somewhat of a trauma. I would think a pretty decent trauma if we're going to put it on the spectrum of traumas for what happened. So,
Very,
yeah,
very, very much so.
yeah,
Uh, and I love to tell the story, and it comes to just so everyone knows, it does come to a happy ending, I believe, because we are walking now, and we did just complete a marathon. So it
yeah.
has to this point turned out positive. And at one point, we didn't see any way that it was going to be positive. Even with hope and optimism, it didn't seem like it was going to turn out to be like it is now. And
Mm,
to take it back to the day that everything started to go downhill because of the accident, at least my physical health went downhill. It was Labor Day 2015 here in the United States, and I am in South Carolina, down here in the South. It's 90 plus degrees. It's really warm outside. Going to a barbecue. There's 20, 23 people there that I know. And at the place that we go, there is a zip line. And I've been down this zip line like 30, 40, 50 times. I've been down a bunch of times. My kids have been down it. And I've been down zip lines everywhere in the world. I mean, Costa Rica for one, Thailand for another. So I've been down a bunch of zip lines. Like the ones that are like 300 feet up, that's insane. And this one, which was only like 25 feet up, and it wasn't the highest distance. Still, I'm a 225-pound man who at the time was 38 years of age. We had a child that was 1 year old,
mm,
and we're at a barbecue, and I go up to go down the zip line. And Julie, I swear this is the thing that you think would never happen to you. Going down the zip line and the connection of the harness to the zip line itself, there's a break, and as it breaks, I fall to the ground, not even realizing what's happening. And the next thing I know, I come to. It knocked me out. I hit the ground with such force that it knocked me out, and my tailbone hit the ground, and it crushed my spine, crushed the discs in between the spine, and I got herniated disc from it. And um, let's take a long story and get to some of the high points of it. I was able to get up. I was able to get to the car, able to walk eventually that day within the half an hour or so. The next 9 months, my health steadily deteriorated, and I tried everything that I could, from physical therapy to chiropractic to hypnotherapy to immersion to the needles. What are the needles? Acupuncture for the first time.
acupuncture.
That was a trip.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
plant medicine, to everything. And it ended up in a cortisone shot in the spine. That didn't work. The pain was still there. When I say the pain, just imagine a place where, not all the time, 8% of the time, maybe 10% of the time, the pain on a scale of 1 through 10 is a 10, and it's so excruciating you cannot do anything but just wish and scream that the pain go away, and you're reduced to
Mm,
a ball of the fetal position on the ground crying. Yes, that is 38-year-old, very masculine, 6'6", very strong me, and I
mm,
kept it all inside, couldn't tell anybody about it. My wife knew. My mom didn't know. My in-laws didn't
mm.
know. No friends knew. No clients knew. I was embarrassed and ashamed. I'm the positive guy coach, and I'm not able to tell anybody this story. I didn't take any pictures, didn't allow any pictures to be taken of me in this time. And it comes to a head, a really bad ending at that time in April of 2016, where I couldn't get up the stairs. I couldn't leave the house. I didn't leave the house for 5 weeks at one point, and I had to stay downstairs. My office is configured differently than I had a couch in the office. I put my legs up on the couch and lay my flat back on the ground and lay there. That's how I slept. And this happened for 5 weeks, where I didn't leave this room, basically. And it was incredibly challenging. I had to do something, so I got a wheelchair from my neighbors across the street. Come to find out, a lot of people have had back and neck issues. So they had a wheelchair, they had canes, they had all kinds of stuff, and they helped me out. And I got that wheelchair, and it was somewhat comfortable, and also it was shattering to my identity. So here's the part where your listeners may be able to take something from this of great value. This has been the big turning point in my life. We're tested from time to time on things that we don't know how to get out of, that we have no control over. When we finally got the conversation with the surgeon, Dr. Alfred Ryan III, I want to give him credit, amazing, amazing surgeon. We had the conversation. He said, Matt, you may not ever walk again. And when we had that conversation, I was sitting there with my Julie, and we cried, and I think that was the first time that we ever cried together.
Mm.
And in that conversation, everything changed because of one word, and that one word was surrender. I had to surrender to
Mm.
the things that I could not control. And I could not control that I might end up, like, literally, I was thinking there was that movie with Denzel Washington, The Bone Collector. I thought I was going to be like the guy laying in that bed, like that bed, moving myself back and forth, paralyzed forever. I might be Christopher Reeve. I don't know what was going to happen. I surrendered to that, and it was shattering, because my identity was athlete. My identity was biggest person in every room. My identity was masculine, strong, provider, athletic, and all those things were in jeopardy. At least I thought they were in jeopardy. And when your identity is facing this existential crisis, what do? One way is to block it all out and to keep to yourself. And that's the way that I think many men might respond. And many women probably still support those men, and they may not be getting what they need, those women, though my heart goes out to them. I was one iota from being on that path, because my Julie is just like you. She has a huge heart, huge empathy, and she pours into me. And she was
Mm.
very patient with me. Um, I was able to surrender to the things I'm not able to control, and because of that surrender, I was able to accept. I was able to accept that I have what I will now call, over years of work, I now have what I call the eternal identity. My eternal identity cannot be touched or challenged by any external variables outside of me. And that is where my strength comes from. My eternal identity is built on my core values of optimism and gratitude, curiosity, and self-discipline. And those things are untouched by external factors. By the way, none of this just came to me in that exact moment. In that moment, it was simply, you know what, I can't control this, so I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Julie, we're going to be okay. And that was the hope that we needed. That's when everything changed. That's when I was able to see things. Like Brad Pitt,
Mm.
the Interview with the Vampire, able to see things for the first time in eyes you've never seen before. I was able to see because I surrendered to things I'm not able to control. Over the past number of years since that happened, 7.5 years, Julie, my self-awareness is omnipresent. It's always here, and it's getting more and more present every time we practice this, every time we talk about it. The ability to detach myself from the things that I used to want to control, all the perfectionist things, like when it comes to my marriage. I used to want Julie to have to wake up like me in the morning, do my miracle morning, and wake out of bed at the speed of light with energy from the stars, because I'm like energy super fired up in the morning. All right. And no, I can't control that. I'm totally okay. She gets her coffee, then she comes alive. And me, I'm totally cool with that now. Right. Or if you're in business, and your employees aren't moving exactly at the speed that you think they should be moving, or that person didn't sign that contract as fast as they should have, or all these things were should, all these achieving words, but, should, all those perfectionist words, they'll remove those, right? And now we're more okay with anything we ever have been, and we're more at peace. So there is a way to get there, my friends. There is a way. It takes practice. It takes an equation.
Mm.
Here's the equation. I'll give you this, then we'll come back to you, Julie. Here's the equation. I would give everyone this equation to be able to practice your emotional intelligence, to practice surrender, to practice moving your identity towards who or what you want to be. The equation is quantity plus quality plus frequency equals how to practice to solve anything. That's simple. Hiding in plain sight, quantity plus quality plus frequency. That is the equation or the recipe for practicing. You can solve anything that way. If you learn how do you solve emotional things that way? Get with someone who has a high EQ like Julie and practice listening to this podcast. Take it and then do some of the journal exercises that Julie talked about, some of the breathing things I've listened to her on her show talk about. That's how you practice. So I'll pause for a second and share. Thanks for letting me share the story. It's been a
Mm.
journey, and surrender is where everything changed.
Wow. Matt, it's the only way to explain it is as you were speaking and I think we're all waiting on bated breath when you said it was the one word. And I'm like, what's the one word? And you said surrender. And it was like this sacred presence just showed up, whatever you call that, right? God, universe, the divine, or higher self, your Youest You, whatever you call that. And it actually reminded me of the serenity prayer. The serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things, and wisdom to know the difference. And I feel like a line should be added, and please help me to surrender everything. Like that would be the add-on. And because what I'm hearing in what you said, first of all, I mean that is, ooh, that's intense. I just that level of pain, that kind of fluky accident. You are such the optimist, like to be put in a way to test, to really test your values, your life. And I just think this is so powerful. So anyone listening now, hopefully you're still with us. We love you. To really get, even when you were told you weren't sure if you would be able to walk again. And this is the thing, I think that this is what I think is actually part of what we are all seeking and what's happening in our world, especially for those of us who are really wanting to shift our consciousness and really wanting to live more in our heart and be a contribution to the earth and the world, is learning to have a life where it's not just the doing, it's learning how to allow, it's learning how to connect in, to plug in. I think of it as like plugging into the wall, like you plug in the vacuum cleaner, you plug into the divine, whatever you call that. And surrender is the plug, is what I'm hearing. Surrender is the plug. And I don't have anything like that. I can tell you though, for someone who's high achieving and, in that camp like you, and I know most of my, most of my listeners are like us. It's one of the most challenging things to do is to say, I'm going to actually go into that plug, not the plug of my will or what I think I need to do. It's actually an act of faith and courage. And so I
Mm-hmm.
applied you at a very deep level because that really is takes something. And the gift I'm hearing, what you're saying is, I really believe what we're all here to do. To me, it's a form of enlightenment. This self-awareness. You said that no matter what happens, you are connected in to, you have your values. Those can't be taken away. That you have this connection to yourself, and that surrender was actually the gift. So I'm so grateful for you sharing this. And I think there's a lot of gems in here, a lot of wisdom and a lot of takeaways. And I love your equation. Maybe we can just spend a moment, diving into the equation. Before we start to wrap, I do want to put this equation to the test because, or give an example, because I can
Okay.
just hear, sometimes I hear guests speaking or asking
Yes.
questions. I'll hear them and I'm hearing, can you tell me more about the equation and how do you use that? How do you apply that? So
Great.
Matt, thank you for sharing. And how do we apply that?
Great question. So I'll give you one answer for sure, and if there's time, a second bonus answer. So the first answer would be this. I'll give you a real life example of how I use the equation today. So every Thursday, we're recording this on a Thursday right now. Every Thursday, I sit down in the morning time and I do something called thinking time. Now, the quantity of this is a self-reflection time where I ask a
Mm,
question that's important that may be able to lead me to something that can serve me, serve the world, serve a client. Just a question in service. All right. So I sit down every Thursday morning. The quantity is one. The frequency is every week. And the quality of this thinking time is dependent upon no distractions. Now, with three young girls, distractions are aplenty from the moment they wake up. So I've got to do this before they wake up. I've learned that if I keep doing the thinking time, the quantity and the frequency is still once every Thursday, but the quality is, you know what? I do it once they wake up. They're all over me. They are literally jumping all over me like I'm a jungle gym, and I'm not able to have any quality thinking time when they are here because I got to be totally focused, right? So I've got to do it. The quality is going to be just me, not distracted. So there's no phone, no computer, no nothing there. That's the quality for me. The quantity
mm,
is simply one, and the frequency is once a week on Thursday. And I came up with this thinking time question this morning. What's my biggest challenge to overcome that may give me the best shot at achieving my biggest goals in the next 180 days? I turn a timer on for 45 minutes and I don't look up. My pen cannot come off the paper until the timer goes off. Okay. So in that time that I'm religious about and sacred, stay sacred every Thursday, in that time I came up with some brilliant stuff that I'm able to use and coach clients to in their businesses. I'm able to apply my own business. That's one example of an application over time. Another example might be our mutual friend Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, where wake up every morning and take 60 minutes and do those certain exercises that he prescribes. I've been doing that quantity 5 to 6 times a week, frequency since July 27th of 2015, and the quality. Well, when the kids came around, the quality of it shifted over and over and over and over and over again. Now the quality is really good because I do it before they get up, right? So the recipe is there for any of us. We simply
mm.
need apply it to the area of our life that will help us to reach what we want most or to remove the biggest pains and obstacles. Take your choice. So that's an
I
example.
I can't stop grinning. Like, I love this so much. I think as a fellow coach, I'm like, oh my God, that's a delicious question. And whether you're a coach or not listening, like, I'm going to have this in the show notes and I'll even get that question from you, Matt, but we'll put down this thinking time so others can emulate what you're doing. I think that's brilliant. I have to share something really quickly. This is so funny. When you said the equation, and I know, whoever's listening still with me, I bet you thought this too. So in addition to living in this concrete world, I also find myself often in the ethereal spiritual world, right? So when you said the equation, it's quantity, quality, and frequency. I was like, oh, your frequency, your energy, what frequency are you vibrating at? Like, are you there's
Ooh.
the
Okay.
David Hawkins emotional scale so I was like, oh, frequency.
Wow.
So you want to be vibrating at hope or optimism. And so I was going to say you could maybe do like F squared. It could be frequency. I like,
I didn't realize I was taken to a letting go like a David Hawkins fan over here. Oh my goodness. So yes, if you're thinking of frequency in those terms,
yes,
that I
you
would
know,
probably equate that to the quality
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that I'm
yeah,
putting into
yeah,
the exercise. But I love the way you
yeah,
frame that. That's very
yeah.
unique.
Yeah, it did. Well, we all bring our own specialness. I just was remembering this with my oldest best friend in my room growing up. I loved strawberry shortcake, which is definitely aging myself, but I had a poster that said everybody's special in their own special way. And I really believe that. So, but the frequency, I was like, oh, you're like love vibrates at the frequency, the 528 hertz. We have solfeggio sounds. So anyhow, I could see, you don't have to add to your equation, but I was like, oh, I could see like, having solfeggio or that frequency beat in the background while you're doing that. That might be a little distracting. But anyhow, that was my only thought or question was, oh my gosh, is he talking about like emotional scale, like, or frequency of like hertz. But you know what? That's an add-on. You could add that or not. That's up to you.
Well, okay, so here's the bonus then. So that was the first situation. That is more of a thinking exercise or more of a
Right.
business solution. If we're talking the emotional level or emotional
Yeah.
scale, here's an example of emotional scale. So for me, everything started in the brain and then I had to translate it through the heart. And now I'm learning that they're the same. The mind body is the same when you learn how to do that. I didn't know how to do that for the longest time.
Sure.
So now the way that I've done it, and I'm sure this may really connect with some of the male listeners who have trouble unlocking some of those emotions, who are very cerebral. This is a place that gets you on the path. This is not mastery of emotional intelligence. This is a simple checkpoint on the way to the path. So for me, I would ask you this question, and I made a note here. Here it is. The question is, as I would take this process, I would go to we're talking quality, frequency equals your recipe, right?
Mm.
Well, to figure out how do I get into the emotional space? How do I start to learn this? Well, my opinion to you would be this. First, start with your core values. So identify what those core values are. Like pick 3 or 4
Mm.
words that are most important to you, your deepest values, whatever those are. And if you're not sure how to figure that out, that's a different workshop. One way to figure
Yes.
it out might be when have you been at your very best? When have you been most alive? And whatever you're feeling at that time, that might be close to your core value, what it is that you're living at your core. The second thing after you identify your core values is to ask yourself these 3 questions. This is the way the thinking person can start to get on the path to the emotional side. It might be, when did I best model this value in the past? When did I
Mm.
best model this value in the past? Where am I best modeling it now, right now in my life? And how might I model it today, later today? And then how do I feel doing this exercise? How do I feel doing the exercise?
Mm.
And then anything short of that, anything past that point, pardon me, anything past that point, call Julie, call me, get an emotional intelligence coach, or get the next episode that'll come out in another 6 months. But that's where you might start to ask questions towards
Mm.
emotional intelligence and towards starting to feel things. And then once you start to ask, then your lens is like, I drive a black Chevy Tahoe. Now I see all the Tahoes around. Well, now I'm
Yeah.
asking questions about values and feelings. I'm starting to feel things. Help me understand those. That would be the next place I would go for some of those males out there that want to get on the path, or the women that want to support those men, or anyone that wants to support those men on the path.
Yes, or the women that I love that, Matt. And I'm remembering when I used to do a lot of coaching consulting with companies and Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield. I worked with some of the head nurses
Mm.
here in the Maryland area, and I remember one of the main leaders. She really struggled with this. Really struggled with this, with feeling feelings and emotions. And this is a similar activity we did. So I think just opening it up, whether you're male, female, both, this is something I think for those that are thinking dominant. I love this exercise. I'm so grateful you shared this. I'm going to put this in the show notes, and I love that it goes to values. There's actually a free assessment, the VIA assessment, which can help you access your values, and I'll put that in the show notes too. This is going to be the coolest show notes ever.
Awesome, awesome.
So mine was actually, I remember it does it in a different way. I remember mine was one of my top ones was excellence and beauty. And I'm like, oh, good Lord. But love, I think love was one. And then it was excellence and beauty, or it was reversed. And I was like, that's okay. Excellence is like just seeing the beauty. I did an episode on beauty, how beauty is so healing. And so, whatever it is, we want to honor it. Gratitude, love, compassion, like you said, curiosity, optimism. Matt, thank you for just who you are, for sharing from your heart, your mind, your soul, for the gift of your story, your lessons. There's so much here. I feel like this is so rich. Like I'm getting the image as a former food addict of a big chocolate cake. Like this conversation feels like decadent chocolate cake. Before we close, I know I'm like, yum.
Yes.
Um, I want to ask you, I like to ask this question around what is being your Youest You mean to you? And if there are any other heart flares, we call them heart flares here to add, please add it in. But what does that mean to you?
Hmm. Here's the
We can
first thing.
ask Glory too. Glory is welcome to answer and as
Glorious
well.
vibrating, pulsing. Yeah. No, no. The first thing comes to mind when you say it, and I'm trying to hold space for my emotion to answer this and my head, and they're both coming together. And you as
Mm,
you to me, I envision and I feel at peace. I feel at peace where I am in a place I'm surrounded by my children that are grown up. I'm surrounded by my wife is here. We're at a fireplace at our home. It's in a warm climate, and we're sitting there and we're simply smiling that we've not only helped each other, but we've helped the world in some way.
mm, mm,
And I feel that the U.S. you for me is at peace in knowing that I left it all on the battlefield. I left it all out there, being able to give the best that I knew how and the best that I could uh,
mm.
eternally, for the people I care about. And it starts with myself, and then it goes to my wife and children, and then my community and everyone I serve, and to you and the world. And I would invite everyone to do that. Start with yourself, and then emanate out to others. That's what it meant to me when you shared that. Mm.
Beautiful. I love, love, love that. Really hearing that being a piece and being of service. Yeah, that's
Yes.
gorgeous.
Yes.
Thank
Well, Julie,
you.
we have a mission, and I say we, and I mean people who may have a drive of some kind, a drive for the force of good. And yes, I'm going to quote superheroes and fantasy, Lord of the Rings figures, and the Game of Thrones and everything. If you are on the side of what you would call good, then we have a moral. I would say that there is a morality, and there is this directive inside of us to do good. And there's a lot of evil out there. And my mission is to share this good in some way, shape, or form. And I call this the Eternal Optimist podcast, is the way that I share that. And I would also say that on this mission of emotional intelligence and being able to feel and be a better husband and be a better dad and be a better human and a better coach. I've written my first book, and it's coming out on March 8th, 2024. And it is a journey in a very business parable style, like a Pat Lencioni, or a Dan Millman, Way the Peaceful Warrior, a style of how we overcame each of these big places. We didn't grow up knowing how to do everything and solve everything, and we certainly don't know everything now. Each step of the journey, we're able to shed a different layer of pain and able to add another layer of skill, other to feel a little bit more. And just because at 28 I could not feel and connect with people the way I do now doesn't mean it's impossible. I'm not a lost cause. I've gotten here, my friends, and you can too. You definitely can too. You can be your Youest You. It simply takes some practice and some hope, and keep going. So thanks again,
Mm.
Julie. I love you. I'm so glad you brought me on today, and I hope that your listeners, if one listener can take something that they can feel, or they can take action on, or they can process, just I'm so glad this was worth it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. I'm just really grateful. I love how you are just you're so on that path of like, there's always a way to be more of my meest me or youest
Ah,
you. And really, that's what we're all about here. That's the whole point. And however you look at it, really saying I'm here to be a force for good of light. And that is certainly the intention I know you have, I have. And I just thank you. And I want to say thank you to my beautiful listeners. You are part of this family. I feel so honored. I feel like some of us know each other. We may not yet know each other, but we're here connected in our hearts and connected through the greater light, the universe. And I just am so honored to share Matt and his wisdom. Check out the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, that will be below in the description. We'll have all of these different techniques, his information. And just like Matt said, I hope that you got something today that really is going to impact you at a very deep soul level. That's the point. Whatever that might be, to help you be and love your Youest You with so much love and gratitude. My friend, I'm so grateful and honored to be here with you on your journey and being your Youest You. Thank you for watching this episode, for being part of this incredible community and this mission to really step into your light, to your highest purpose. I believe that as we all do that, we all can really be our best selves and uplift consciousness and humanity. So thank you. I also wanted to say that if you are looking for greater support right now, maybe you're having a health concern or you're looking to really step into that next version, best version of yourself, please come connect with me, whether it's for more resources or coaching or guidance. I would love to support you in any way that I can. Just go to juliereisler.com. You can book a powerful one-on-one breakthrough session there. You can connect with me. I would love to meet you. I'd love to hear how I can be on this journey with you. And before I forget, if you'd like a little more of this good vibe tribe and would like to digest these episodes with a high vibe community, just go to Facebook and look up the Youest You podcast community. You'll find us there. Love always. And thank you so much for taking the time and energy to truly stepping into your authenticity and being your Youest You.